The Aggies land 3-star corner Jamar Beal-Goines. And I'll tell you this kid's got a really, really high upside.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go. The mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly, so join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. It was an interesting weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, some football commits, some spider tack, craziness and stuff on the old diamond. We'll get into all that, my take on all that. And we'll talk about the baseball series here at the tail end. But first, we have got to talk about the recent addition of 3-star corner Jamar Beal-Goines to Texas A&M's 2025 recruiting class. Now, let me start with this. The last time I talked about whoever the 3-star was, I don't think it was Rank because he's not a 3. Whoever the last 3-star was that we talked about, it was within the last few weeks. I had 2 or 3 comments, people saying 3-star, blah, blah. That's all that matters. No, listen. The first point I'm going to add to that is they were probably a Texas fan. That's happened. We see that a lot. But I don't think there's a worse take in the world than when he's a 3-star. I mean, listen, all you have to do is watch the NFL draft. Watch the NFL draft. How many times do we see 1, 2, -4 stars go in the first round? Stars are not everything. They are not everything. I've talked a lot about recruiting. You know, I've talked to some folks who know recruiting on a national scale, and they say, oh, all those rankings are about how many camps do you go to? I heard a kid, Funk, the freshman offensive lineman, he was like that. He was a guy who could have been ranked a lot higher, but he didn't go to all these camps. And seriously, a lot of this recruiting is politics. Now, we're not talking 400 spots, but sometimes we could be talking maybe 100. So, and that's not what's going on here. But what I am saying is the tape doesn't tell lies guy. And then, you could make the argument of, well, this kid's from Arizona. That's true, and I'm not super entailed on how good Arizona high school football is, but I can tell you this: Beal-Goines is the number 3 player in the state of Arizona. So let's get it. So my point here is, before we get into Beal-Goines and Goines, whatever it is, I know somebody with our Locked On Indiana host. Actually, his last name is Goines, and I call him Goinesy, but I'm pretty sure it's Goins. But whatever. So, the thing to remember before we get into him is the stars aren't everything. And if you're someone who's like, well, you turn the video on and you're like, oh, he's a 3-star. Okay. Andrew, have a good rest of your day, buddy. Don't care. It's just, that's not what matters anymore in recruiting. You just got to trust me on that. So, so when it comes to Beal-Goines as a player, 6 foot, 170 pound corner. So a lot of West Coast offers, not a lot of SEC. It was Missouri and Texas A&M, and that was all of his SEC offers. A lot of West Coast, a lot of what we used to call the Pac-12, a lot of those schools out west. Arizona kid, makes sense. And so ranked 435th in the class. So, I mean, he's really close to a 4-star. I mean, this is 4-star tape. I'll tell you that. So getting into the tape, the first thing I love is they say that he ran a 4.29 lasered 40-yard dash. So that is like, if you blink, if you close your eyes and open them, you'll have missed him. He will have already ran by. He's that fast. So lightning quick kid. And that was very clear in the tape. So the first video of his tape was him returning a punt, taking it to the house, where he looked shifty. He looks great running the football. So that is a box to check for Beal-Goines, that he could return punts with his lightning quick speed. When it comes to him as a corner, he played a lot of snaps at outside corner, but he did play a few snaps at nickel. I see him as an outside corner, but it's cool to see some snaps played at nickel, just so you're used to it. You come into college more versatile. So once again, fast. He's great with the football in the air. He adjusts well. He doesn't overplay the football. He always seems to make the right decision. And that was the number one thing that stood out to me about his tape. He always seems to make the correct decision. And I really do. I like that. With the ball in the air, he doesn't overplay the football, which we see that happen a lot. And then he's good. He's good at timing up. Okay, when am I going to jump? When am I going to attack the football? When am I going to try and bat this pass away? When am I going to try and pick this off? And he seems to have a good understanding of, okay, I'm going to try and intercept this pass, or okay, I'm trying to bat this pass down. I really like that as well. Long kid, like I said, 6 foot, 170 pounds, but he's got long arms. He's just a player who I think is going to fit in well to the Texas A&M secondary. And he's not afraid to tackle. And that, listen, you know how many times we see some corners that are a little bit of a diva and they don't want to tackle? We see this a lot, right? Don't want to help in the run game, don't want to tackle. This kid likes to tackle. He's got great form. He hits hard. 6 foot, 170 pounds. He's not a little guy. And he likes to hit. He likes to tackle. And I love seeing a corner who is not afraid to tackle. So I really like that about his tape too. But once again, the what matters, or what not matters, excuse me, what stands out in his tape is the speed. The dude is lightning quick. He is a very fast player. And there was another play where it was, I think, the third or fourth play of his tape, and you watch the receiver runs the wrong route. The quarterback throws the football, and of course, it's in no man's land. Normally, a pass you would see land with nobody even getting near it because it's just a miscommunication. And Beal-Goines is able to go pick off this pass, and he looks quick. I'm not saying this kid's going to play receiver, but this kid's quick, and he looked good catching the football. Which is good to see. You love having a corner who can catch the football. I mean, once again, a lot of times that's why receivers become corners, because they can't catch. So, great film. It's 4-star film. It's 4-star film, and I'm not saying it's top 100 player film, but it's definitely 4-star film. I think this kid, if he was playing in Texas, if he's playing in California, if he's playing in Florida, I think he's a 4-star. I think that he would get that boost, he'd get that bump. So I like this kid. Jamar Beal-Goines is a name to remember. I like this film. People are going to write this off. People are going to say he's a 4-star, whatever. Don't care. People are going to write off this edition. Well, as Geno Smith said, Beal-Goines ain't writing back. This is good film. Go watch it. Trust me on this one, ladies and gentlemen. Please, I really like the film on this kid. He is better than the rankings. And this is not a kid that you should just go 3-star, whatever. This kid's better than that. This is a really good football player, and I do think he could be a guy you could see on the field at some point, perhaps early into his Texas A&M career, thanks to being a big kid already. So we'll have a few more points to make by this recruiting class, and then we have to talk about a massive position of need in the portal. I've thought about it. You got to go get somebody at this position. We'll have those conversations coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You've already talked about that. But there is just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. So the last thing I want to say is I think we need this about the Beal-Goines edition. You know, right now, DeJohn Petaway is your only corner in this class. I think that you need to really hit the secondary out of the ballpark in this recruiting class. It's a recruiting class where, you know, you've got a lot of portal guys coming in this year, a lot of young guys. This is a class you need to do well at corner. It's, you did really well at safety in last year's class. And this is a class I think you need to do really well at the cornerback position. I like Petaway, and then now Beal-Goines is a kid who I think is underrated. I think he will get his 4-star at some point. So that's my thoughts there. You're also starting off this recruiting class really strong. So you've already got 10 commits and your class is 11th, right? And then you look at some other recruiting classes. And I remember one of my first shows, so we'll get close. I'm almost to a year doing Locked On Aggies. I think my first show came out on the 15th of May. So which, we'll talk more about that when we get to 1 year. But that was one of my first shows, was talking about, hey, it's like we're getting into late May and there's not a ton of commits. Should we be concerned? Is this normal? Texas A&M with 10 commits right now in the class at 11th. And it's a little bit of quality over quantity, but a little bit over quantity over quality. I mean, there's a mix of quality players and just dudes, you know what I mean? And I like that you were quickly building this class. Last year, I don't want to look at those numbers, but I don't believe you had this many commits at this point last year. And I believe it was more like you had like 6. Right now you got 10, and that's what I'm seeing. A lot of schools have 6, 7 commits. Now, obviously, the top dogs on the recruiting trail right now have like 15, 16 kids committed. But there are a lot of serious SEC, Big Ten schools that have, 5, 6, 7 commits right now. So you're ahead of the curve a little bit, which I like to see. Coach Elko and company, they're starting fast. I like the way this recruiting class is going. So once again, Jamar Beal-Goines is a solid addition to Texas A&M's 2025 recruiting class. Excited to see where this class ends up. I think it's going to be a really good one. So I sat and I thought about it. I think that we've talked about how you need a receiver, right? We talked about that. You need a receiver in the portal. I've sat and thought about it over the weekend, and I think you really, really need a receiver. I mean, you just look at this, and the Aggies, they just haven't addressed it yet. And so, interestingly enough, when the kid from Penn State committed to Auburn, I looked at the episode of Locked On Auburn where the Locked On Penn State host joined, and we heard a little video clip from the Locked On Penn State host when we were talking about, and I believe his name, it's KLS, Keandre Lambert-Smith is his name. I keep forgetting his name, but I played that video from the Locked On Penn State host when we found out that he was coming on a visit. And, quickly, the Locked On Penn State host was he just seemed like not in on this kid. And then, he said that he disappeared in the last handful of games of the season. Then you hear him join an episode of Locked On Auburn to talk about that because I was curious. So I listened to that, and the Locked On Penn State host really let him have it. I mean, it sounds like this kid, there were some locker room issues. There was some stuff going on there. And I'll tell you this, it sounds like Auburn paid about $753 million for this kid. And, I mean, was that worth? That was obviously a joke. They did not pay him $750 million, but obviously it was not worth that. I mean, if you had an option, if Texas A&M's options were one, $1 million receiver, or two, $500,000 receivers, or I would take the two receivers. I think you need two quality guys with high upside over Lambert Smith, who's a great player, but is he worth what Auburn paid him, which I bet was a substantial amount of money? I think you've got your guys. You've got your 1, 2, and 3 with Noah Thomas, Moose, and Jade Walker. The question is, who's after that? Jabri Barber's down with an injury. We haven't heard an update on the length and severity of that, but I mean, once again, it doesn't sound great. Then you talk about the addition of Cyrus Allen, who made a couple good plays during the spring game, and then you talk about Micah Tease. You look at those guys, and then you really go, okay, I mean, it's pretty much the bulk of it. You've got some young guys. There's some other players on this roster, but for the most part, you're a couple injuries away from being in deep, deep trouble. And that's kind of my argument here is you have got to go get a receiver in the portal. At first, I was like, yeah, you could use one. It'll help. Now I'm like, man, if we know Noah Thomas has injury history. If Noah Thomas has to miss a couple games with a hamstring and then Jade Walker turns his ankle, I mean, you're in trouble. And then on top of that, while we've seen a lot of Moose, we've seen a good amount of Noah Thomas, and we've seen a healthy amount of Jade Walker, none of these guys have ever had to be the guy. There's always been another guy. They've never had to be the guy. And I think they can do it. I'm not concerned about their ability to do it, but you are unproven in that room. And I really think that you could use another couple guys. So in the new reality of college football, there is a lot of, did Texas A&M bid up Auburn for this Lambert Smith kid? It sounds like it, So the point here is you've got to spend your NIL money wisely. You've got a certain amount of NIL money. You have got to spend it wisely. And once again, I wouldn't be opposed to going to get two portal receivers. So use that money, go get two kids in the portal, receivers in the portal, and I think it makes this roster a lot better, and it makes you feel a lot more confident about, okay, if someone were to go down with an injury, you feel a lot better about the depth of the position. Right now, once again, the more I think about it in my head, you are a couple injuries away from being in serious trouble. So while I feel good about the upside of this room, healthy, if this room gets banged up, it's a different story. So, I mean, you got to hit receiver out of the park in the portal. And I think the coaching staff knows that. And they've done that. They've done a good job, whether it was last portal cycle or this portal cycle. They've done a great job addressing problems and fixing them, finding holes and patching them. They've done an incredible job of that of late. And I think that you're going to see that continue with them landing a couple solid receivers. So I'd like to see it happen. I'm, anxious to see this go down, but I do believe that you're going to see that happen and that this position is going to be in a really good spot heading into the season with a couple more additions. So That is something I'm monitoring. That is a position group that I'm paying attention to for this roster. They have got to get them, but I do think they are going to get them. The Aggies get the series win over Georgia, but they drop game 3. There's some interesting stuff going on there. We're going to talk about all that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Also want to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the only place anybody should ever be purchasing a ticket to a sporting event. I love the Game Time app. I love how it's easy to use. Use it for everything I buy a ticket to. Was at a baseball game the other day. Used Game Time to buy the tickets. Getting ready to go to a concert. And where did I buy the tickets? Game Time. So I love the app. I love how simple it is to use. Also love the fact that it is an app where you can see the seat in the venue before you purchase your ticket. I like that because, you want to like where you're sitting, and Game Time has that feature, and I really, really do like that. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. So this baseball series was an interesting one. Game 2 was wild. And then you have this whole spider tack drama. I'll tell you this. This is my take on the spider tack thing. I've seen the video. I think this is being blown out of proportion. I'm a believer in sticky stuff is part of the game. It's just reality. I'm not going to overplay any of that. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. I've seen some people talking about how much velocity spider tack adds to your heater, and I'm like, listen, I pitched my whole life. I played the game in college. I don't believe that is true. Spin rate, yes, no question, but the velo, it's a tough sell on that for me. The point here is, I don't think that matters. I just don't. I know that kid that came in the end, I know what I'm saying is the Aggies won the series over a solid baseball team with a guy in Condon who I think is going to be a top 3 pick in the draft. You take it. You won the series, okay? And so I'm not super frustrated by the spider tack thing. I just think it's part of the game. I think everybody does it. I think, it became a rule. People are finding new ways to do it. It's just part of it. So I'm not up in arms about that. I know some folks are, but it's just it's not that big of a deal. You won the series. It is all good. So game 1 was a 5-2 win, and it was a battle of bombs for the Aggies. Grohovac gives you a homer, Appel gives you a homer, and then Ted Burton gives you 2 bombs. And, all your runs come off homers. One of them was a 2-run bomb, and then the others all solo homers, and that's how you win the game. Prager continues to be a beast. 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts. The staff gives up 4 free bases. Once again, this is just a quality SEC Friday night baseball win. You go and you get a guy to go shove. You get a couple runs. You hit some homers. This is what a Friday night SEC or a game 1 SEC showdown should look like. Fun baseball game, but not as fun as game 2. I remember I had to watch the highlights on that one. I wasn't able to watch the whole game. And I open up my phone and see that it's 9-0 Georgia. And the top of the first, I go, are you kidding? I mean, Tanner Jones just got rocked. He had a bad outing. Loved Tanner Jones. He's a great pitcher. Had a bad day, and that's going to happen. That stuff just happens. It's reality. But I go 9-0. I go, oh, man. All right, well, we'll play in game 3. We'll play for the series. And then I check my phone again, and the Aggies score 8 in the bottom of the first to make it a 9-8 ball game heading into the top of the second, which, of course, the Aggies go on to win this game 19-9. What a fun baseball game. A weird one, but a fun one. So Chestnut goes 3 for 5 with 5 RBIs. Sorrell goes 3 for 3 with 4 runs scored and 3 RBIs. I mean, just everybody's hitting the ball. Tanner Jones got hit around a little bit, and then Shane goes 4 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, and picks up the win. Great job from him cleaning up the mess and finding a way to get the win. So what a fun baseball game, a non-conventional one, but man, it was fun. And then in game 3, the game you do lose, Laviolette goes 3 for 4 with the homer and 2 RBIs. Camarillo goes 2 for 4. Lampkin goes 5.2, 1 hit, no earned runs. Cortez gets hit around a little bit. Cortez has been playing well. He's been pitching well. I'm not upset about this. Once again, it's just going to happen. Georgia's a good baseball team. You beat them at home, won the series. You did what you needed to do. So if you just keep winning series, that's all that matters in SEC play. So LSU is coming up this weekend at the Box on the road. Going to be a big one. A very, very interesting series. Can't wait for that one. A tough road. When you win that one, you're in a really good spot. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here. Hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their Monday, and we will see you tomorrow.